Greetings, friends. Crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met, has taken another turn about its imaginary axis and, of course, continues creating events in full development. The events in the agenda of the Far East are once again becoming interesting, and the new character in the White House has now decided to become an statistician. He is one of those men who has been able to buy everything. He became a billionaire, and then he got the best advisors, the best strategists, and decided that he wanted to be the president of the United States, and he managed to do so. However, as we have said many times, together with the position of president, you have the position of commander-in-chief. And this person, who was never being more than just a civilian making a lot of money, wants to become a commander-in-chief. Now, he likes to be the strategist. The open wound after World War II, that is Korea, is now part of his agenda. Korea has brought back prisoners to the United States, and this could be considered as an achievement of this administration, and Trump says that now he wants to meet with people from North Korea. If this means a fluid management of the great wound in the armed forces of the United States that had to withdraw and had to ask for coltan Pearl 38, that's why Koreas are divided. Well, that would be great news. However, this character, who today is in command in the White House, might want to play commander-in-chief today. So let's take a look at the events in full development. And we needed to change the news right away because we can read this in different ways, including the news. Here we have a picture of the First Lady and Trump. Trump is going to meet with Kim Jong-un, president of North Korea, on June in Singapore. And his tweets state, the expected meeting between Kim Jong-un and myself will take place on 12 June in Singapore. We hope this will be an special moment for world peace. Something else was added here that was very interesting. Trump welcomes the prisoners of the United States left by North Korea. The President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump exit the plane with the now free prisoners Kim Jong-un, citizens of the United States, and Kim Ham-song as well, free prisoners today that show the sign of peace. He's speaking with the prisoners while they're getting down the plane, and this is a very significant gesture to justify a very interesting high-level meeting with Korea. The prisoners Kim Jong-sul, Kim Sam-duk, Kim Hak-song, and they greet the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who was awaiting them. Many people escorting them with their open jacket and everything they can carry around their belts. President Donald Trump welcomed 3 former American prisoners in the military base close to Washington on May 10, thanking Kim Jong-un, North Korean leader, for their freedom. And in reference to these events, Trump states that this is a good event, but the First Lady, Melania Trump, was a protagonist. However, she's never close to him. Doubts of the refugees of North Korea about the summit of the leader and the suffering of their people. And Grace Jo, refugee of North Korea, states, our faces were red, and then both hands were so hot, so we're looking for a colder place. And now the time of our death was almost there. Our town in a cornfield, I found 6 mice that were just born under a stone. I was surprised. And I was surprised about their screams, and I got in-house, and my grandma told me it was going to be good medicine for the children. Why are they speaking about mice? Because famine was so terrible that mice were food. Children of 10 years old were sitting in the bed in the Children's Hospital of Gyeongsang. We're speaking of the times of the Korean War. Today, my mother wanted to keep the rest of their children alive. She had to decide who of them were going to be kept alive. She decided to escape to China. That's a picture of her mother, Gracia, who is her name. Those were some very difficult times, but they were able to continue. We only had to be concerned about what we could eat and where we could sleep tonight, where we were going to sleep this night, and everything. This seems a basic and guaranteed chore. We didn't have this. After I come to the United States, I need to think about whether this is the best choice for myself and my family, because there are many great things. I don't even know which one is the best for us. So with so many options, sometimes it's frustrating because I cannot choose, but it is a blessing. This is a blessing in comparison with North Korea and with my life ever since I was a little girl. Nevertheless, North Korea has always shown an idea of discipline, organization, and of course power as well. The tanks participating in the military parade to show the foundation of the Workers' Party, the 65th anniversary. Take a look at that giant square and the mosaic. Soldiers marching, the military circle transporting advanced missiles. North Koreans are locked in North Korea. It's like a small jail overseen by the regime and the North Korean leaders. Lune Kim presenting a picture next to the border, and Kim invites him to cross the border to the Korean side, to the north side. They hold their hands and then they cross this strip. Remember that I told you that whenever you are there, you see this line everywhere, including the table where Parallel 38 was negotiated. They just crossed Parallel 38. And Korea also became a topic of Trump's tweets. North Korea, according to the aviation agency, states that United States must understand that this is wonderful. And Trump stated, this might be wonderful and might not. And if it's not going to be fair, good, and reasonable, and like previous administrations, I will leave the table. But I think that we have the opportunity to do something very special. Grace said some months ago they wanted to bomb Korea, and all of a sudden they changed their behavior. Something is not right for us. And even though they're speaking about a peace agreement, I don't think that this would be real peace. If the government of North Korea does not throw bombs over a neighboring country, this doesn't mean this is peace for the people of North Korea. In North Korea, thousands of people will still die. And they will die thinking about their future. This is not pleasant. So this is not a peace agreement according to me. They have no faith on the ones who survive on this side. Vertical position of a rocket before takeoff. This is a demonstration of Kim Jong-un once again, of the power, not only with nuclear weapons, but with the vectors to transport it wherever I wanted to send it. Kim Jong-un's grandchildren crossing arms. North Korea is threatening the United States, and they will face fire and fury as they have never seen before. The man of the rocket man, has a suicide mission for himself and the regime. The United States is ready and escapable, but I hope that this will not be necessary.
But hopefully, this will not be necessary.
Fundamentally, they will not change.
Grace Hall said, fundamentally, nothing will change. Things and nuclear weapons will still be developed, and they still want to conquer South Korea as their country. The expansion of their country is with the same regime. So if South Korea is giving everything to the North, the Korean regime asks. Then they are supporting the regime in order to get power and become stronger. And once it's stronger and bigger, of course, we can see the expected war ahead of us. I imagine, and I'm frightened about this.
If I imagine that, I'm really scared that.
Student Otto Breinberg escorted to a tribunal by the workers of the law. A plane taking the student back. The exchanges that have been attempted with this dialogue This university student, Otto Amber from the United States, is been taken to the airport. An ambulance is awaiting. Tony Kim, one of the 3 Americans that was in prison were freed by North Korea, and the Korean American man who was apprehended in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un, who was set free. This was the trial applied to them back then. These are files that show how the liberation of this man took place. Tears in the eyes of Kim, who's wiping them away, and also with a piece of paper. Whatever the leaders decide, I hope that the United States government will be able to settle the humanitarian affairs and think about the people in North Korea. The only way of helping this generation of North Koreans is by closing and ending this regime. They don't have peace in them. These countries are still a guess, and keeping them alive in the world is not a solution. The commemorative wall of the Korean War is something that many people visit with a lot of pain. Walking near the monument of the Korean War in Washington, Grace remembers an important moment of her childhood in North Korea, what she calls the moment of her almost being dead before dying of famine. Korea tells the Aviation Agency of the United States that there are no plans for missiles or dangerous activities. Why all this? Because there were tests and demonstrations that showed an intention of civilian flights, showed tension as well. People in the terminal of the airport. How were these things? Well, it was a good trip. Walking with the journalist, Stephen Kramer said, "Let me tell you that conversations were positive and honest and open. We spoke about a serious wide of things related to aerial navigation, and we had guarantees from the North Korean Republic they will do so, not being involved in dangerous activities for aviation without any previous advice. This completed for the next of states of the region, something we expected, and we'll continue with the activities to ensure that we will keep this type of security." There's a proposal for new routes to use their aerial space, and the partner states are reviewing the proposals of the International Organization of Civil Aviation, who are facilitating coordination from our regional office in Bangkok. Were you given a time frame for this? No, it's not up to the Republic of Korea, but up to the partner states to decide whether they will be part of this bilateral dialogue. And then Stephen Kramer stated, they are focused on routes that are above North Korea. This was not a specific route, for instance, between Seoul and Pyongyang. It was for activities of overflight in the region. And it was something that we welcome, and as long as things develop, we will have a green light from the states of the region. After this, Kramer walks away. This is the terminal of the airport. When arriving to the Beijing airport in China's capital. Here we have solid guarantees of the Republic, he stated. Jets J-20 of China, the ones that are in the radar. This is combat training in maritime areas. This sound states that the spokesperson of the Army of the Liberation of China says that they have the best pilots and the best planes now. The talent of pilots have been trained increasingly, and there have been other real trainings for combat ever since the J-20 became part of the service for the aerial force of China. J-20 is here with us as well. This means that we have participated in training combat with J-20 and other aircrafts. Other aircrafts were also important in the system of the Air Force, providing strong support to improve the combat capacity of this new type. The training of J-20 will help the Air Force to have better duties, a sacred duty of keeping the sovereignty of China and the territorial integrity of the country, showing muscle. And of course, China has some maritime training for a J-20 can also tackle activities and bring threats to the society and improve our capacity to tackle the situation and control risks, as well as to stop and win wars if necessary. They can improve the capacity of maneuvering of the Air Force of the whole country and improve the level of training and the real scenarios of combat. The combat planes are over the radar and the rest of the J-20 part of this drill. Their training was to detect the enemy, hit first, and then disable them first as well. In the press conference of China, Menchuan stated, with the current positive changes of the relationship with the peninsula of Korea, the leaders of the three countries exchanged their point of views over this and sent a unified word. This would help for a political agreement on this sensitive topic. Wang Shang, a spokesperson of the Foreign Affairs Ministry of China. In the meantime, I would like to remind you that the affairs of the Korean Peninsula were not the only topic on the bilateral meeting. Leaders also had a deep exchange of opinions on topics related to how to strengthen their cooperation or other matters of common interest. Three countries created a communication jointly, and here we have the leaders of China, Japan, and South Korea, who jointly sent a strong message to safeguard the commercial multilateral system, opposed to trade protectionism, and promote liberalization and facilitation of trade and investment. This was agreed unanimously and will speed up the negotiations for a pre-trade agreement between China, Japan, and South Korea, and mechanisms for cooperation for the full understanding of all the advantages that are to be explored. Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Commerce to promote the trade relationships between the United States and China. And Gao Feng, a spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce of the People's Republic of China, stated, "We hope that the two presidents will respect the principle of mutual respect and treat each other equally. Also, to strengthen practical cooperation and manage and control appropriately their differences and foster together the relationships between China and the United States." Here we have a maritime view with the containers. This is impressive. Gao Feng, a spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce, stated the following: "The position of China has always been clear about additional tariffs. In a list of products proposed by China for an amount of $50 billion. We oppose unilateral acts and protectionist acts. The United States should keep aside their threats. We will solve the interests of our country and our people. We hope that both parties will have efforts to ensure that cooperation for trade and commerce between China and the United States will be carried out without any type of hurdles and bring benefit to both parties and will benefit the peoples and the countries." A lot of journalists during this important press conference, industrial robots assembling cars. Take a look at this. Cars perfectly assembled with industrial robots. Employees working with equipment, chips. We need joint efforts for the difference between China and the United States. China will not change their position on the trade negotiations with the Ministry of Commerce of the United States, as stated by Gao Feng today in a press conference. We are against this unilateral and protectionist action. The United States should stop their threats. We will safeguard the interest of our country and our people. China's position hasn't changed and will not change. Wrapping up, the position of China with the bilateral negotiations will not change, according to a spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce. Prime Minister of China meeting the Japanese emperor. This is not something that happens often, and it's very important. Emperor Akihito shaking hands with Prime Minister Li Keqiang. Speaking in their meeting, Akihito and Li. This is a meeting in the Imperial Palace. Li Keqiang, Prime Minister of China, met with Akihito, Emperor of Japan in Tokyo, and Li showed the greetings of Xi Jinping, the Emperor, and mentioned that his visit to Japan is due to the 40th anniversary of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between China and Japan. China would like to review the spirit of the treaty with Japan with the visit and foster bilateral relationships to a normal path and achieve new progress. In his visit, as we saw, there was a meeting with Shinzo Abe and the members of the parliament as well, also with a member of the party of the government, the opposition. He also plans to visit the Hokkaido island in Japan to foster local exchange. China is willing to improve exchange. And Mahathir Mohamad took over as the 7th Prime Minister of Malaysia. Mahathir walks towards the king, takes a couple of steps back according to the ceremony, swords in, reads the ceremonial text, and Mahathir complies with Heiser protocols in these cases. This happened against Hamsi Sawan. This was the wife. Sensitive topics have been discussed here. Mahathir Mohamad was sworn in as the 7th Prime Minister of Malaysia after his electoral victory against the coalition that has dominated the country for 60 years ever since independence from the Great Britain. The constitutional monarch of Malaysia, Sultan Muhammad V, was sworn in before 10 a.m. in a ceremony that was transmitted live from the palace. We can see Mahathir had an iron hand in Malaysia's government since 1981-2003. He came out of retirement to face his old protege, Nahim Radas, who was the prime minister for almost a decade. This is the protocol, and it's a really important one. You don't often see a meeting like this broadcasted live. China expects the new government of Malaysia will value the relationships with Beijing. Mohammed Mahat. Back to one of the many press conferences that take place every day in the Chancellery of China. Then Shuang will continue podium and state China and Malaysia are neighboring and friend countries. China grants a high priority to friendly relationship with Malaysia. Perspectives for the relationship and progress of both countries are very good. The results of the cooperation are clear. This must be appreciated and should be kept by both sides. A spokesperson of the ministry, and this is the Office of Chancellery, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, Geng Shuang, confirmed the relations between China and Malaysia are good and positive and should be appreciated. Projects as billionaire development are at the order of the day. The former KLM manager proposes a new candidate. Carlos Puigdemont speaks to new president candidate Torra and the independents. Marca Resaltada, Puigdemont speaking, Torra speaking as well. We are here to show our support to the president, to express our support to the people here, speaking about the two men that were together with him. We just arrived, and we are happy that you're all waiting for this. The sooner we know something, we'll let you know. We are here, we just landed, so that the president knows that he will be notified about everything that happens. Former KLM leader Puigdemont proposed Congressman Torra as the candidate for the Catalan government.
I ara estem esperant, com tots vosaltres, doncs, a l'espera de les propers esdeveniments que us ho comunicarem de seguida que sapiguem alguna cosa.
He spoke about the topics spoken about and about the possibility of ending a 7-month impasse and create an administration. They want to create a government between May 22 to stop more elections after the battle where politicians showed candidates that were blocked by the courts because they were abroad or in jail. After saying this, the situation continues stuck. But whatever the case may be, there is a dialogue and somehow there is a will to leave this place where they are stuck today. Well, I see the 3 satellites that bring information here. There's nothing new. So, we're even ahead of a schedule. Short commercial break and we'll be back with more events in full development. Stay where you are.
Ya vuelve Dossier.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur. The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transformed the world today. On Monday, only on Telesur. In a world infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice, the American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deep into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
We are back with more events in full development, and I have the news of the Bolivian Army for Dossier, the 30th training ship Vela Latinoamérica. Operational activities. The vessel, after 570 miles, is in front of Porvenir Bay in the Magallanes stretch. So it is somewhere around this area. It's already crossed, and it's in the Pacific Ocean near Punta Arenas here. So they're carrying out different maneuvers. They're making it more beautiful. It's always beautiful, now it's even better. It's about to arrive to Punta Arenas, Chile, and will go through the Pacific Ocean. Navigation on the South Canals was according to the navigation varieties and restricted waters, with pilot teams according to groups and clusters. You need a lot of care to navigate there. This represented for the cadets and crew a very interesting experience in the art of sailing. Conditions: cloudiness, snow, wind up to 20 knots, with up to 30 knots, moderate visibility, waves over 2.4 meters high. With our Navy glossary, we'll use bordejar, which is sailing and changing sails to reach a position according to the direction of the wind. This is part of the PRO. It's the criteria. Gustavo Quintero Lopez, Captain Officer; Antonio Mejia Ponte, Captain and Director of Coordination; Marco Frachela Arandia, Captain of the Navy and Manager of the Navy as well. Here, we have more information that we need to share with you. Hold on a second. Let's leave the map. Okay. Let's keep the map where it is. Here we have some important information that we just brought in about this information. Venezuela provides the first exportation of coltan to Italy. With this, they try to improve the economy of the country. This was ready, but I thought it was going to take longer. President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, stated that the country will export coltan to Italy. The president reinforced the commercial links with the export of this material to diversify the economy of the country and to fight the economic war. Venezuela is one of the wealthiest countries in mineral reserves that are located in the Orinoco Bolivar state. In 2017, the exploitation of coltan started in the Amazon state, together with the facilities called El Mineral. And PDVSA rejects the actions of ConocoPhillips to seize their assets in the Caribbean. The stellar company of oil, PDVSA, rejected the actions ConocoPhillips provided to take over their assets and reserves in Caribbean islands. Venezuela reserves that also belong to Venezuela. PDVSA is against these actions by the firm ConocoPhillips of seizing the assets of the oil company of the state of Venezuela and the Caribbean. It's written by the Venezuelan in Twitter. About this, Nicolás Maduro Moros, candidate on Frente Amplio, whether it rains or whether it storms, we're going to have elections. Let me say hi to our neighbors here. Get a piece of plastic so you can cover yourself from rain, because the rain will not stop us. Nothing can stop us, because on May 20, we have the fate of Venezuela in our hands. We have the fate of the independence of our country. On May 20, we will decide what's going to happen in Venezuela in the next 30 years. On May 20, we will decide the future of our children, of our grandchildren. So let us prepare ourselves. On May 20, we will tell the American imperialism and the traitors of the nation that in Venezuela, whether it rains or it storms, the people will vote for the nation. The people will vote for peace. This is my message to all Venezuela. This is my message to Guárico. Guárico, Guárico, Guárico. Important information that we just received stating President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, on behalf of the people and government of Venezuela, rejects the unilateral decision of American President Donald Trump of withdrawing his country of the Comprehensive Joint Action Plan agreement signed on July 2015 between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the group G5+1. This agreement was the result after 12 years of negotiations and active diplomacy between the signee countries. During the 3 years of application of the agreement, the parties have repeatedly confirmed their application and good functioning with the International Association of Atomic Energy, IEAE. Due to this, the measure taken by Trump's administration is an unjustifiable step and also a mistaken one. Bolivarian government of Venezuela exhorts the rest of the members of the Comprehensive Joint Action Plan, as well as the international community in general, to find the ways to preserve the spirit and application of this important agreement. Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela restates their solidarity with the people and government of Iran and votes for the supreme value of peace and respect of the Islamic Republic of Iran to be the support of the solutions to be built between the parts. Caracas, May 10, 2018. This is the information we have from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and up next, we have something else I want to share with you. Chancellor of Russia and Germany meet to discuss Syria and Iraq. Bravo states, we expected that after the unification of Germany, for Europe to be unified, that the common European house to be built with equal and undivided security. Sadly, this did not happen. And we're not losing this strategic objective from our side. Heiko Maas, Foreign Affairs Minister of Germany, stated, there are many problems in the world that must be solved and depend on us. We know that the problems in Syria, for instance, cannot be resolved without the participation of Russia, and this is one of the things that we will discuss today. Great expectations for this. This is the proclamation of the Chancellery of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia. And the managers of both countries, Russia and Germany, met in Moscow to speak about the nuclear agreement in Iraq. Russia can influence Iran for them to adhere to the nuclear agreement. Heiko Maas from Germany, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and of course, the Russian Chancellor. Heiko Maas stated, we also agree that the projects and four, as mentioned previously, are important because it's not only about putting the problems under the table. There are some political differences that we share and we still do. This is not a secret. Therefore, it is important to speak to each other openly and clearly in order to keep a real dialogue between two parties. But this is not the only dialogue that we need. We also need results. And I have already showed them today.
В интервью журналу «Шпигель» ведет себя все более враждебно во внешней политике.
He answered some questions in the summit. This is not a small summit, it's a very important one. In Syria, we have a fundamental agreement when speaking about this situation. This is of great concern, having to tackle new conflicts in this war that had lasted way too long, where the civilian population faces violence. That's why, from our point of view, we cannot understand that the Security Council of the United Nations, that have the responsibility of security, peace, and stability, are so strongly and dramatically blocked.
So nachhaltig und tiefgreifend in einer Blockade verhakt ist.
Questions were restricted. Not everyone could ask questions, but some of them were asked, and of course, answers were as important as this. Today we spoke about a topic that has become urgent in the recent days. The nuclear agreement. We agree that it's important to respect this agreement. We've been informed today about the following measures that should be taken about this. For us and for our European partners, France and Great Britain, Iran must comply with their duties under the agreement and be part of this agreement. We have discussed the influence of Russia in Iran based on this topic.
Noch einmal darüber unterhalten haben, inwieweit die russische Regierung insoweit auf den Iran auch einwirken kann.
The final question, he said, we're speaking to the States about sanctions and how concretely we can understand, and what would be the perspectives for those there. Those who have no other options, because if this could be applicable to new treaties immediately, it is important to know the regulations of the so-called secondary effects, what this means for a European firm if they continue making business with Iran. Minister of Foreign Affairs said that Germany is looking for more details of the United States of following sanctions of the United States, the one that Washington wants to put on Iran. Sergei Lavrov mentioned, we believe it is important for the rest of the participants of this action plan, the Joint Comprehensive Action Plan, to shortly consider the current situation, carry out all necessary consultations, and create the steps that would allow us to continue with this document, which is the most important one for the stability and the non-proliferation regime. We stated that we're deeply concerned about the decision of the American administration of withdrawing from the Joint Comprehensive Action Plan because it's a significant violation of Resolution 2231 of the Security Council of the United Nations that approved this plan and became part of the international law. About unilateral sanctions of the United States, there's nothing we can do. But we cannot apply the withdrawal of the sanctions imposed by the Security Council. The United States cannot reconsider this. The agreement is not only about withdrawing sanctions, but this agreement, called Comprehensive Joint Action Plan, has the objective of stabilizing the region, and its most important focus is to strengthen a non-proliferation regime. For this achievement, it should be contemplated in whole as something very significant.
Раз уж там что-то решено в Вашингтоне, то это будет реализовано, это теперь уже понятно, президент Трамп об этом сказал, но, безусловно, мы будем...
After something was decided in Washington, it will be implemented. It is clear what Trump said about this, but of course we will try to reach this when first they don't ruin the Comprehensive Action Plan. This is our common objective, and we have confirmed this today. Secondly, there will be no extraterritorial influence of the United States in other partners of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Related to Israel and Iran, we believe that this is a very disturbing trend. All problems should be solved with dialogue, and often with the contact of leaders of Iran and Israel, including the meeting held yesterday between Putin and the Prime Minister Netanyahu. We emphasize the need to avoid any type of actions that are mutually, sort of speaking, provoking. Lavrov and Mas both got up, and they took pictures while they were exiting the room. Speaking about the press conference in Moscow, with the talks with Heiko Maas, and Lavrov stated that the United States should have no power. Netanyahu crossed the red line due to the action of Israel with aerial attacks. Benjamin Netanyahu stated, Iran is the one who crossed the red line. Our answer was appropriate. CFDI carried out a wide attack, a very wide attack, against Iranian targets in Syria due to the appropriate training of our forces, both in attack and defense. Israeli actions. Israeli people are proud of their defense forces, and the Israeli people trust them. We are in the midst of a prolonged battle, and our policy is clear. We will not allow Iran to be entrenched in Syria. Yesterday, it sent a clear message to Assad regime. Our action is against objectives in Syria. But if the Syrian army is going to act against us, we will do the same. This is specifically what happened yesterday. The Syrian army fired missiles against us, and we struck back. Apparently, Israeli forces are back to normal after the exchange of rockets during the night hours. Israeli tanks behind the fence, moving, missiles there, interceptions as well, rockets for interception deployed, Colonel Lieutenant Jonathan Kalikus, soldiers as well, from the heights of Golan. When you're there, you will understand the strategic value of this. You can see all the valleys as clear as in this image. It's an unforgettable experience. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan said, Defense Forces of Israel don't want to increase the situation or widen the volatility of this region. We call Iran and Syria out consequently, and we hope that the message sent yesterday is clear and has an impact in Iran and Syria. Israeli forces seek to defend themselves. Israel will not tolerate the deployment of Israeli military in Syria, and they will act consequently to defend themselves. In Tel Aviv, people having coffee, people also reading the paper. After midnight, alarms and interceptions, as well as also projectiles falling in Golan. Poli Matityahu, an Israeli living in the States, visiting, said, I'm not afraid of this at all. Not at all, not at all. I believe that the forces in the world are helping the state of Israel. I think that the United States support Israel, and it's been a great support for this operation as well. With President Obama or Hillary Clinton, this wouldn't have happened.
If we had President Obama or Hillary Clinton, probably it wouldn't have happened.
After that, Roberto Nahum, president of Tel Aviv, said the following. People are still calm. Of course, I am concerned, not only about Iran, I'm also concerned about the situation in Jerusalem, what's happening in Gaza as well. I am also part of the army, and I'm in the reserves. This is a difficult situation for all of us. Two women and their baby, people riding their bikes in the boulevard. Professor Uzi Ravi, director of the Moshe Center for Studies of Middle East and Africa in the University of Tel Aviv, speaking to a journalist, said the following. Yesterday, there was a milestone in the geopolitical table. This was the first attack of Iran against Israel. In response to this, Israel said that this was written by the Revolutionary Guardians, that it had the signature. So Israel and Iran, starting now, will have a direct rivalry in war.
Responding to that, say it loud and clear that it was the deed of the Revolutionary Guards. That means that Israel and Iran, from now on, are in sort of a direct rivalry and war.
Professor Uzi Ravi, director of the Moshe Center for Studies of the Middle East in the University of Tel Aviv, stated, ultimately we're going to see the same, more of the same. This would be the best scenario. The worst scenario would be a generalized war. I don't think that anyone wants to have a great-scale war.
I think that nobody really wants to have a full-scale war, but we have to remember.
But we have to remember and add our words of reserve. We're in Middle East. Things could get out of control at any moment. But what we're going to see in the next months or week is a game of cat and mouse between Israel and Iran. Soldiers in their positions, being up in a hill is very important when you're in a flat spot. Soldiers, even people from the United Nations, watching Syria. Israelis had fun in cafes in Tel Aviv after a crossfire in the border of Syria. And this was analyzed as a chess table. Welcome to this noble cause for humanity, where President Nicolás Maduro holds as a flag in the Bolivarian diplomacy of peace, but also in every corner of our nation. Intellectuals from around the world have called presidents internationally the Venezuela, I don't want to be a victim of misinformation of the media, and it states as follows. On May 20, 2018, Venezuelans will be summoned to a new process, electoral process. 4 opposers will try to beat the current president Nicolás Maduro in an election that will be accompanied by 2,000 observers of all 5 continents and organizations as the African Union, CLICOM, and the Council of Electoral Experts of Latin America. This democratic appointment, nevertheless, is being boycotted by the political and media force of group of powers that nationally and internationally announced ever since the lack of respect to the results. In the midst of this tense political concept, ourselves, citizens of the world, targets of the great corporations of transnational communication, vindicate our right to be informed plurally, balanced, and also honestly about the following events in Venezuela. We have people signing, for instance, Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, Nobel Peace Prize, Ignacio Ramonet, writer, journalist, Piedad Córdoba, Joao Pedro Esteril, Mar Weisbrot, Jack Sapirka, Carlos Aznare, Fernando Benabat, Estela Caloni, Bernard Cassent, Javier Couso, Michel Colón, Alex Main, Roman Megus, Maite Mola, Juan Carlos Monedero, Miguel Pérez Pirela, Eric Ortega, Ernesto Navarro, Francisco Sierra, Christophe Ventura, Gregory Wilper, among other intellectuals of the world. So, up next, we're going to have elections in Venezuela, May 20, 2018, 2,000 observers. With this, we close today's dossier with this information that came in last minute, and we wish all of you a good night. Also, the international scenario of our spacecraft is following the events that are here in full development in the Republic of Venezuela. Whatever you may be on the other side of the monitor, thank you for allowing us to be there with you. From Studio 3 of Venezuela Televisión, here I close Dossier, the Doyen program in the Occidental Hemisphere of Satellite Information. This was Walter Martinez, producer and host. Director, the floor is all yours.
Wow, yako you